what I gather is an enormous scandal in the process going on with the construction of privatization of Pierson Airport. It is outrageous, and there's lots of examples of it.
All right. If you form a minority government, which appears by the polls that that's what's going to happen, the balance of power is with the Bloc Québécois, you guys are going to be ineffective.
I think people know that Jean Chrétien, and at least speaking for myself, and I think a lot of Liberal candidates, there's one group with which we would never accommodate. Lucien Bouchard would never have been in Chrétien's cabinet, or in for that matter, Trudeau's cabinet. He was recruited by Mr. Mulroney, and as we're...
Pact with the devil.
Yeah, the Faustian bargain. And I think that, I hope people know that Mr. Bouchard and his Bloc Québécois deputies are going to get very little sympathy from a Chrétien government. That's why they hate him so much. They say Jean Chrétien is a federalist. We want somebody who's soft on separatism, like Brian Mulroney, like Kim Campbell, like whomever, but they ain't going to get any sympathy from us, as far as I'm concerned.
David Kilgour, you know that if you have a minority government, that you guys are going to live for 18 to 24 months with that situation, because you've got to replenish the campaign coffers. You're going to have to seek an accommodation with the Bloc Québécois.
There's no way the Liberal Party can accommodate itself to the Bloc Québécois.
You are going to accommodate one another. Nobody is going to be ready.
We despise each other.
Yeah, but nobody's going to be ready. You know the mechanics of an election. You need money to launch a campaign. Yeah. Nobody, the minority government will survive 18 to 24 months.
Oh, yeah, I suppose.
You wouldn't go back to the polls in 3 months, would you?
No, I certainly hope not. My wife and children are going to murder me if I have another campaign in 3 months.
All right, tomorrow online I'll be joined by one of Canada's premier feminists, Liberal MP Sheila Copps, bound to be in the cabinet should Jean Chrétien and his Liberals win. At present, of course, I have David Kilgour here from Edmonton Southeast, the Liberal incumbent, former Tory, and I'll open up the phone lines at 451-8040. Don't go away.
Get out of the house. Get fit with Club Fit.
A play area for the kids. You gotta love it.
The best in fitness gear makes it happen.
You gotta love it for only $1 a visit.
Bring the family. Club Fit.
Basically, I thought all toothpaste were the same. But then I tried Arm & Hammer dental care. And wow, it was like a burst of clean. Now I get that fresh from the dentist feeling every single time I brush.
New Arm & Hammer dental care for that fresh from the dentist feeling of clean.
The worst odors disappear into your carpet. You need the muscle of the baking soda in Arm & Hammer Carpet and Room Deodorizer. The fragrance and the freshness of the outdoors, indoors.
Imagine giving your cat a gourmet meal every night. Well, with Whiskas Supreme, you can. For Cléo, a superb liver and bacon pâté. Très délicieux. And for fish lovers like Tiger, there is salmon and crab cuisine. Très bon, oui. Individual gourmet meals, each cooked délicatement in its own juices. Whiskas Supreme. And for Sacha, her favorite, turkey and giblets. After Supreme, mes chéris, no other food will do. Whiskas Supreme, for the gourmet in your cat.
Bake tonight? We got swimming at 7.
So?
So I don't have time to bake.
We had them at Mark's house. They're good.
I'm a cook, a chauffeur. Hey, I'm not your maid.
You made a pie once, I think.
Where did those come from?
Hot, buttery tasting, melt-in-your-mouth crescent rolls. With Pillsbury, you've got it made.
Try my cracked wheat dinner rolls, too.
From Pillsbury, in the dairy case.
See? I knew you could do it.
In Hollywood, I've learned it's important to always look your best. So if you wear dentures, always use Super Strength Polident. It soaks away the toughest stains, and its minty mouthwash ingredient leaves your dentures minty fresh clean. Super Strength Polident.
All right, welcome back. David Kilgour, Liberal MP for Edmonton Southeast, is our guest, and the number to call is 451-8040. Line 4, line 5, you're online. Go ahead.
Hello. I wanted to ask Mr. Kilgour a question. We very much appreciate what he's done since he first became a politician. All the work he's done for the criminal justice system to make it more humane and to make it better for victims in Canada. We want to thank him heartily for all the work he's done. He's the single MP who's done anything in Canada on this. along with the gentleman in Red Deer, too. We appreciate it. But we just wanted to thank him and also to ask him what can be done to humanize some of our judges now.
Humanize the judges?
I was thinking, I didn't hear the caller's name, about that this morning. The judge, and I can be cited for contempt, so I better not give his name. The judge who wrote the judgment for the Supreme Court of Canada the other day saying that what was going on in that Montreal bar was acceptable to Canadians. I'm sure the caller...
Which case are you talking about?
Saying what was acceptable as not being obscene in a bar. I think he, and it was a he, is so out of touch with what Canadians, sensible, common sense Canadians think, that it embarrasses me as a former lawyer to think that we have judges making judgments like that, and we have too many judges that are completely out of touch with the caller and about 93% of Canadians.
Let me ask you this. If you guys do form a government, you made reference to the fact I could be cited for contempt. Nobody seems to know where the line is on contempt. Isn't it time that in a free and democratic society that we codified contempt?
Well, yes, we should.
Don't you think?
Oh, yes, I absolutely agree.
Because nobody knows. I mean, I could say something on the air one afternoon, you could say something, we could be cited for contempt and end up in the slammer.
I had a case, Peter, where somebody was released on bail who did an outrageous thing afterwards. I phoned up, tried to find, I forgot the name of the judge who had released him, and I said, why wasn't the judge's name in the papers having released this very hardened criminal? And I eventually found out that they had the reporter who wrote the story had put the name in the paper. The editor had taken it out because the judge had called and threatened to cite the paper for contempt.
So do I have your commitment that you work for that when you get back to Ottawa? Have you tried yet to codify?
Judges have to live in this society too, and they have to show a good deal, many of them have to show a good deal more accountability than they have at the moment.
Line 6, you're online.
Mr. Kilgour, if the electorate in Alberta and the government wants to expand freestanding medical clinics and institute user fees, would you amend the Canada Health Act to allow that? I'll hang up and listen for your answer.
Thank you.
I haven't... would I personally favor it? No, I wouldn't personally favor it.
Christian, I think this is really the problem of this campaign. I think you've just epitomized it. Between the Conservatives and the Liberals, is nobody really wants to say what they're going to do. As Diane Francis of the Financial Post says, hey, you got to go after social programs. They're $70 billion worth.
Yeah, well, there are 100 issues in the campaign, and I hardly think that this issue that the caller has just called about is among the top 20.
Just don't want to talk about where it's going to cut.
I don't want. I want it. Well. Next call.
Line 8, you're online. Go ahead.
Hi there. I just have a question. If Jean Chrétien and his Liberals do accommodate the Bloc Québécois in any way, Mr. Kilgour, are you ready to quit in disgust and perhaps seek out the legal implications of such an action, and what I mean is treason?
Well, the people are always right, as the caller knows, and if the people in Quebec, I think, wrongly want to elect 40 or 50 Bloc Québécois, they are entitled to be in our Parliament. I'm sure the caller recalls what happened with the British Parliament when they had the Irish MPs elected there at the turn of the century. They turned that English Parliament into a zoo, effectively, I gather. The Bloc Québécois would be there for one purpose, and that's to break this country into pieces. Now, how do you accommodate somebody that wants to destroy your country? I don't want to see Canada broken up. But I don't think that giving the thing away slice by slice to the Bloc is going to save Canada. I think we're going to have to say to them, if we're asked to form a government, we're going to have to say, sorry, we want Canada, and Mr. Chrétien has been saying this all his life, and that's why they hate him so much, as I said. We are not going to make compromises with the devil, because in our minds, you people want to break up our country.
Line 4, you're online. Go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to charge all political leaders with conspiracy to commit boredom. But one thing that I can tell you is the fact that if the Liberals declare that under no circumstances you will form an alliance with the Bloc Québécois, even at the point of losing the government, you probably can pull off a majority government from the rest of Canada.
But Chrétien has already said that he's not going to accommodate the BQ. I mean, I've seen a quote where Chrétien has said that if he has a minority, he will govern as though he has a majority.
Peter's always citing me for being a former Tory. Let me jump back to the '84 election, caller. I was asked to go and campaign in Quebec for 13 in 13 ridings for people like Andre Bissonnette, who had to leave under a scandal, Michel Cote, who had to leave under a scandal, even in Lucien Bouchard's riding for the person who held the seat before they shoved him out so they could create a vacancy for it. The Tories formed an alliance with the Parti Québécois and the Bloc Québécois, well, not earlier, and we are paying the price for it. We have 1,000 failings as Liberals, but one thing you can't accuse us of is wanting to having any truck nor trade with the Bloc Québécois. And that's why, as I'm sure the caller knows, they hate John Chrétien with a capital H.
Line 5, you're on line. Go ahead, line 5.
Yes, hello. Well, I kind of feel that we should change government people every term and have a productive report on them of how much they saved and how much debt each minister created. And the people will have a better understanding on the tally sheet at the end.
That's an interesting idea. I don't think it's going to happen, though. It's a good point, though.
Line 6, you're on line. Go ahead. Line
Hi.
6, go ahead.
Hi. I was wondering if I could find out the spending on the deficit. Like, okay, if the government cut their spending, wouldn't that help clear the deficit?
Yes,
well, that's
sir,
the only way.
Sir, it would. But as I say, if you say you, 70,000, 80,000 in the armed forces, if you say tomorrow we're going to close 4 bases in Alberta, I think there are 4 in Alberta, and we're going to cut the army in half, 40,000 young men and women are unemployed tomorrow, and they presumably get unemployment insurance or UI, or sorry, social assistance, the debt's going to go up. We've got into this thing over 20 years, as I said before, and it's going to take us more than 3 years or 5 years to get out of it. But I accept Peter's point that if we don't start to take the thing seriously instead of talking about it, this young, I think it's a young person that's calling, his future and your children's future and my future is going to be awful.
Well, all of our futures. I mean, I'm not that old. But the other part of it, and we're starting to see it now, is that there is such a resistance to the high taxes in this country that the underground economy obviously is flourishing. I mean, for the first 6 months or 4 months, revenues are down $2.9 billion to the federal government.
Yeah.
And it seems to me, and studies have proved, that there's a point where you can tax your population, and then it becomes negative.
Yep.
And I'm afraid that that's exactly what we're on now, which means it's going to exacerbate this deficit problem.
Yeah.
So what about a tax cut? What about some supply side stuff?
Well, supply staff, consumer confidence is, as we were talking about before the show began, is at the lowest level since 1982. Nobody watching this show, or too few of them, are going to go out and buy something this afternoon, a new suit or something, because they haven't got confidence that they'll have a job 6 months from now.
I don't buy that, Mr. Kilgour, because Stats Canada shows that in 1991, the average family after-tax income was back to 1976 levels.
Yeah.
Sure, there's part of it. I mean, we know that we have concentration of wealth in 55 plus, that there's lots of money there. But I'm talking about after-tax income being available. I mean, how much are you guys going to tax
well,
us?
look, we didn't raise the taxes 38 times. It was the Tories, these anti-tax.
You were part of it for a while.
Well, GST, they cut my head off.
Yeah, you left on that.
But they have raised taxes.
You're going to cut some taxes?
Look, don't believe a politician on any politician who gets up in election campaigns and says, I'm going to cut taxes. Throw him off the stage.
I don't know. Reagan said that what he was going to do in the States in 1980. He did it, and income to the federal government of the United States increased by 8% a year, outstripping inflation, which was 5% a year.
Some of our taxes are far too high. On the other hand, there are some taxes that are far too low.
All right, which one, for instance? What are you talking about here?
Should you be able to go out and have lunch after this show and pay right off your whole lunch?
It's not. It's 80%.
Sorry, 80% of your lunch, and then someone else goes down to a food bank? Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. Because I work during my lunch hour.
If you work.
I'm in business meetings.
All right,
of course.
I think a lot of people think that could be dropped significantly, that lunch thing, from maybe 50%, maybe to 30%.
Line 7, you're on line.
Mr. Kilgour, I would like to know when the Liberals are going to return the $60 billion that Trudeau, Lalonde, and Chrétien stole from Alberta under the National Energy Program.
That's $150 billion, I think.
I have written about the National Energy Program in both of my books. Nobody, I hope, has criticized it harder or more vigorously than I have. The National Energy Program was an outrage. The fact that the Tories have kept interest rates and the dollar at the level they have until recently has also been an outrage. It's probably cost almost as many jobs as the NEP did. I have made it clear to Mr. Chrétien, and he's made it clear to me, that there will never be another NEP under him. It was a mistake. Never again is the party's attitude to it. And I can assure the caller that if anything smelled like it ever came along again, I'd have my head cut off again.
Would you walk out?
With another NEP, I would run out, Peter.
Who'd you run to, though?
I think I'd take up some other line of work at that point.
Line 8, you're online. Go ahead.
Hello, yeah, it's Mr. Kilgour. Can you tell me, with all the unemployment that we have right now, and there's more unemployment that's coming up according to the Bell telephone, etc., the age group of people between the ages of 30 and 50 that need retraining, require retraining, cannot get it through the unemployment insurance company right now. It's based mostly for young people, or that's about it. It's based
All right, good question, caller. What about that? We're going to have more and more of those people in that age group.
To spend, what is it, 2/3 of UI money goes to spend money to unemployed people to stay at home.
Must be in the, well, it must be in the Maritimes.
Sweden, I think or other countries, spend enormous amount of that UI money on retraining people, and I think it's been the thrust of our policy, which came out a week ago, that we very much want to see people retrained of all ages, not just people who aren't in the 30 to 50 category.
You know, I'm wondering if having the Bloc Québécois in there in great numbers and having the balance of power may not be beneficial to the country.
You mean, no, how could it be beneficial?
Because I think that the only way we're going to get beyond this Quebec or English-French issue is to have a highly decentralized federal government. I simply don't believe, and certainly from the environics data that I've reviewed over the years, the polling, that I don't believe what the elites say, which is English Canada wants to have a highly centralized country. I think that's nonsense. And I think the Bloc Québécois is going to push whatever government gets into power, whether it's your party or the Tories, to decentralize more. And I think that's the only thing to keep the country together.
I think we need some decentralization too, a good deal of it, because our national government does not represent 8 provinces and territories. It represents people who live in Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa. So I'm all for you on that. But at some point, if you take everything away from Ottawa, then you might as well close up the city and grow grass on the streets, and not have a country.
All right, line 4. You're online. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you.
Quickly, we don't have much time.
No, I won't. Am I talking to the member of Parliament now?
Yeah.
Okay, I got one question to ask you, and
well, just ask the question. Come on, let's go.
Okay, for the deficit, why the hell doesn't Canada stop trying to be the breadbasket of the world and give all this money for food, also lend millions but billions of dollars to these countries that don't even pay the interest back?
All right, what about foreign aid?
There's enormous abuse of foreign aid, there's enormous waste in foreign aid, but there's also some foreign aid that feeds kids in Somalia or humanitarian aid, and that, to my view, is what Canadians are in favor of, not the abuses.
All right, David Kilgour, it's always a pleasure, and good luck. Do you want to give out the phone number for your campaign office?
Oh, yeah.
In case somebody wants to help you? You don't have it, huh?
Oh, that's awful, isn't it? I should have memorized it, too. I don't have it. Oh,
well, phone information. Anyway, good luck. You probably don't need any more help. I'll be back in a moment. Don't go away.
Watch your mailbox for this brochure. Every ticket is a chance at 2 fully furnished award-winning homes by A.C. Westman. Plus, a better than 1 in 20 chance at 1,508 other valuable prizes. Our early bird draw just weeks away is for a Mercedes-Benz Cabriolet valued at over $100,000. For ticket purchases, call now. The Edmonton General, Grey Nuns, and Misericordia Hospital Foundations thank you for your support.
There's nothing to it. Making rice taste great is such a snap with Lipton rice and sauce. Irresistible Lipton flavors, like my favorite, Harvest Chicken. And the sauce simmers right in for tasty, perfect rice, always. Ready in 10 minutes. So make dinner a sensation with Lipton rice and sauce and make it snappy.
Lipton rice and sauce, so right beside everything.
At Swiss Chalet, we always try to bring a little extra something to your table, like a warm smile, and a good deal. So right now, our rib special is only $5.95, which is nice enough on its own. But what's just as nice is seeing that you enjoy it. The rib special, for a short time, just $5.95. And here's another little extra we bring to your table, just in case you need it.
What would be your ideal test drive for a Pontiac Sunbird? Maybe this. How would you test the ABS brakes? Maybe here. Where would you go to test Pontiac's 24-hour roadside assistance? How about anywhere in North America? Pontiac Sunbird, standard 4-wheel ABS, 24-hour roadside assistance, and automatic door locks. All for less than you'd expect. Now, where would you go to test drive a Pontiac Sunbird? How about here?
Let's look into our crystal ball. The year is 1998. Do you know what your job will be, if you have one? How much you'll be earning? Even where you'll be living? Of course not. But the Liberals and the Conservatives are telling us what the whole country will be doing 5 years from now. Jean Chrétien and Kim Campbell have unveiled their economic platforms. They both promise to cut waste, but not just yet. That could be politically risky. Promising cuts in the so-called out years of a 5-year budget is the same physical flim-flam predicted by Slick Willie down in the States. Americans are only learning now they've been taken for a ride. Canadians shouldn't make the same mistake. I'll be back at 3 p.m. on 930 CJCA. Radical feminists face a big Mac attack. High school students give their views on the election and politicians, and high-tech security wants to memorize our faces. Tomorrow online, once a member of the Rat Pack, Liberal MP Sheila Copps looks to be holding a cabinet post after October 25th. She'll be online. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day.
Last week, the Hollywood actress married 18-year-old, that's right, Ashley Hamilton on Friday. Now, he is the son of actor George Hamilton, you know, the tan guy. The couple started dating just 2 weeks ago, and the wedding was kept so secret. There he is. Isn't he pretty? The couple's parents and her 90210 co-stars didn't even know about it. Her new husband was recently named one of the 50 most beautiful people in the world by People magazine.
We have like a pool on how long it'll last.
So cute. Yeah, maybe a week.
We wish them all the best.
Yeah, of course.
All the best.
And we know they're watching. Okay, 3 minutes before 7 o'clock. Coming up on First News, how do you feel about the closure of Edmonton's Kilgour Road? Well, the city wants to know. We'll have details when we come back. Stay with us.
Been moving flights from the international in the past 12 months in great numbers.
No, what we're looking at is basically we're looking at change to service 1 or 2 points. We're looking at a change to service Vancouver and a change to service Yellowknife, and Yellowknife is only by 1 carrier. The other carrier still has not changed their behavior as far as serving Yellowknife. So we haven't changed the places that Edmontonians can get to. We've changed in one case the airport from which they fly. That's the only change we've seen in air services.
But you say you're dying out there.
It's much more dramatic than that. I think that we have to really understand our markets here. 40% of the traffic to the international last year was either traffic going to Vancouver or to the north. So to lose that market has a dramatic impact. And it just doesn't affect that. Like, for example, what we're now hearing from the airlines are saying, well, now that people can no longer fly from Yellowknife, for example, to the international airport, that's going to affect the flights that are going to Mexico. Because a lot of people like to vacation, they like to make the connection. Now they don't have that choice, and the only choice they're going to have, it will be to get on another flight to go to Calgary and make the connection there. We're also finding, for example, a lot of people from the north go to Toronto, go to Ottawa. Now, our Yellowknife flight will land at the municipal airport, our Toronto flight will land at the international airport. That's not service to the north. That, in fact, all we're doing is we're reducing the service to the north. And so to say that these markets are independent, that's got to be one of the silliest statements I've heard in a long time.
Mr. Grimble, somebody was saying to me that the city, which owns and operates the municipal airport, should really be saying no to these increased flights that are trying to get out of the international into the Muni in order to save the international.
Well, the reality is that we operate in a free market situation. We operate by laws of this country. And the law says that if you have an airport and an airplane is capable of landing that airport, they're entitled to land. The city doesn't really have the opportunity to deny specific airlines the rights to whether they land or not.
That's not correct at all. That is not right at all. If you look in the United States, I can give you a number of examples where the local airport authorities have put in very specific rules governing of how their airports will be operated. Washington National, for example, has a perimeter rule. You can't fly from anywhere in the United States to Washington National. The same is true in Washington LaGuardia. Other airports put noise restrictions on the type of airplanes. You go to Toronto Island, which is the second supposed second airport of Toronto, handles less than 1% of the market, and Toronto Island doesn't allow anything bigger than a turboprop. So here's a market that's 10 times our size, and their second airport won't allow anything bigger than a turboprop, and we have people suggesting, and one of the things I take exception is we're seeing who's speaking for the municipal airport.
Who is speaking for the municipal
Well, I
airport?
think we have to start looking at the community now. We have a group like Kingsway Business Association that speaks for a few hotels and a couple businesses along Kingsway Avenue. If you look at the paper these days, start looking about who's speaking for the citizens around that airport. Our phone lines at our airport authority now, we've had a hotline since the beginning of the week. Our phone lines have been going crazy from people who live around that airport complaining about the noise, and they haven't seen anything yet.
Another study, Mr. Grimble. Yet another study about the airport situation.
We're certainly not the ones that are advocating for
it
study.
seems to me we're another $200,000 being spent by the city on yet another study. But they've got you. And you know where they're going to get you?
No ideas.
Because there's a small environmental impact study. And you mark my words, the way they're going to get you is with that environmental impact study.
I don't think so, because when you look at the kinds of things the municipal airport has in place, we have the finest noise abatement program of any airport in Canada. We also have, in terms of pollution control, waste control on the airport site itself, an excellent system. So I'm not afraid of an environmental impact study.
That's where they're going to get you. Mark my
I don't
words.
think so, because I think we have an excellent record at the airport. You know, the fact of the matter is people are complaining about noise. The number of flights by jets are down.
When I saw that, I saw very clearly what they're going to do. They're going to overturn this plebiscite through that environmental impact study.
You know, it's very easy for Don to talk about how the environmental impact isn't affecting. Where do you live, Don? You don't live near the airport. There's thousands and thousands of people who live right underneath the approaches for that airport that they're being affected. And I think it's very easy for me or for anyone else to say who doesn't live around the airport to say, well, that's not a bad thing. I'm not the person who at 7 o'clock in the morning is having the children woken up by jets taking off or late night flights coming in. And that's the situation that we're looking at. And so we have to look at a number of elements of the environment, not only just the noise. We have to start looking at the pollution. We have to look at the safety concerns.
Why? You work out of the International. You don't live near the Muni.
I'm a citizen of Edmonton. I have a, you know.
But you don't live near the Muni either.
Also, the group I represent is the Edmonton Regional Airports Authority. We're appointed, the board I report to is appointed by the municipalities in the region, including the city of Edmonton. And our mandate is to look at what's best for the city and the region, not just around the International Airport or not just Kingsway Avenue.
All right. Well, we invite your calls at 451-8040. On Monday, the Oilers are about to slip away from us. Al Nagy tells us what we must do to save NHL hockey in Edmonton. I'll be back right after this. Don't go away.
FDY Furniture is proud to introduce its team. This group of creative, talented designers are here to assist you with your interior fashion needs. They'll take the guesswork and confusion out of your interior decorating decisions. In fact, the team's goal is to make your home look its absolute best. To get this experienced design team working for you, call FDY at 452-8275 and call today.
Most eligible voters have already been registered on the federal voters list. This revision card confirms that your name appears on that list so that you can exercise your right to vote. Have you received your card? If not, read the leaflet from Elections Canada, which will arrive shortly by mail. It will explain how to have your name added to the voters list. It's important because your vote is your say.
Better names and better savings.
Now, save 50% on state-of-the-art Anilon hard anodized non-stick cookware, designed for cholesterol-free cooking. Anilon cookware comes with a lifetime limited guarantee and is exclusive to the Bay. Open stock or 8-piece sets. Yours at 50% off.
Great quality, great brands.
Better price advantage.
Go ahead, take advantage.
When you choose 100% pure Minute Maid orange juice from concentrate, you can do so with no reservations, no concerns, no hesitations, no doubts. Because unlike some other juices, Minute Maid has no added preservatives. The taste that says 100%. Now enjoy the taste of Florida Valencia oranges in our new Valencia Supreme.
Welcome back. Ron Gilbertson is arguing for the International, Don Grimble for the Muni. So let's get to your calls. Line 4, go ahead. You're online.
Yes, good morning. I have a comment I'd like to make for both your guests. They got to remember that the Muni can't handle 747 traffic because the runways are too short and the noise level would be too high. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Grimble, what about that?
Well, we believe that both airports are needed. That's precisely why. Because we need to have some of those large carriers coming in. For example, the cargo flights from Cargo Lux, 747s. Absolutely, there's function for the international airport.
Mr. Gilbertson.
One of the lifebloods of Edmonton in the future will be our long haul, our ability to compete outside of Alberta, and the need for long haul services can be crucial. And so therefore we're going to need a long haul airport. But the fact is, if you go to Calgary, for example, which is a successful airport, 80% of their traffic is domestic. We need the entire market to support a strong airport. And by splitting our market between two airports, we're ending up with two very mediocre airports instead of one very good one.
Line 5, you're online. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment.
Would you speak up, please?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment about the international airport.
Go ahead.
And what I'd like to say is that I think that people need to realize that you need to cater to the business people, and they're the ones that are going to decide which airport to use. And they got to realize that the Muni is the best one for most business people, which is the highest flow of traffic. And that maybe the government and taxpayers and otherwise should think about shutting the white elephant down, the international, because people just aren't using it.
All right, what about that, Mr. Gilbertson?
I don't agree with that statement at all. The business people, if you look at where our growth is occurring right now, it's occurring more and more in the long haul market. The travel within Alberta has shrunk dramatically in the last 10 years. The markets that are growing are travel to the United States, travel internationally, and travel to Eastern Canada. The only airport that can serve those markets on a direct basis is the international airport. So to say that the Muni is better equipped to serve that is not right at all.
Line 6, you're online. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. I personally enjoy the convenience of the municipal airport, but given the choice between the international, given the choice, the international airport provides us with more opportunity for growth. The Muni is too small to allow for international travel, and I don't personally want to have to take a commuter flight to Calgary to get where I want to go. Thank you very much.
Mr. Grimble, didn't you have a plan to extend the runway so we could take jumbos at the Muni?
The reality of the municipal airport service is that people are not using the Muni to connect over to other places. Basically, most of the traffic is going to destinations within Alberta.
The point being, Mr. Gilbertson is saying there's a chance that the international will be closed down, and Corbet, the federal transport minister, has said they're not committing to keeping the international open at all costs. You had a plan of what, elevated runways at the municipal airport?
Certainly wasn't our suggestion. I think people.
Well,
Mr. Laulisher, I believe, was the one.
Oh, Laulisher, that's right.
We recognize that there's physical limitations to the runway lengths at the municipal airport, and basically, types of aircraft which are going to use the municipal are going to be restricted.
So, Mr. Gilbertson, is there any middle ground here as far as you're concerned? Is it possible to keep the Muni open for scheduled flights and have the international flourish? Is there any middle ground here, or is it one or the other?
No, I think there is a middle ground. We're working very hard with the city right now trying to find some sort of compromise solution that will respect the results of the referendum, because the referendum is binding on council. But I think we have to really understand how the market works and really understand what is possible. And I have to take issue with a statement that was just made, is that the Muni is not being used to connect traffic. The other day I was talking to on a radio talk show with another representative of Air Service for Tomorrow, and when we asked the question, how has airline service improved in last year, the quotes were, now you can go from the Muni to Tokyo, to Hawaii, to Taipei, and to Australia. Well, you know, every one of those is a market outside of Alberta.
But all through Calgary.
all through Calgary or Vancouver or wherever. And so what we have now done is taken our airport and made it a competitor of international, and how we make it compete is by supporting other international airports which we're in competition with. So for someone, we have to make a group such as Air Service for Tomorrow should get its position straight. They're either saying it is for connecting or it isn't.
Well, there's an assumption here that Ron has jumped on as well, is that the world is not changing out there. And in fact, the international carriers are changing dramatically. We've seen every airline in the world, save one or two, running in a deficit. And they're shrinking capacity all over the world. So what we're seeing in Edmonton is going to be affected by that. And we have to preserve our accessibility, and that's what Rick Coughlin was trying to get at, is we do have accessibility. Even if we were flying out of the international, the routing would probably be exactly the same. We'd be going to Vancouver and places like that.
Line 7, you're online. Go ahead.
Yeah, my major concern in the whole thing is Edmonton becoming a second-class city, and not like to Calgary, and not getting the kind of air service that it should for the size of
good question.
City that it
but
is.
Haven't we already lost to Calgary? I mean, Calgary seems to be the business hub of Alberta.
I don't think, I think if this city ever gets to the point where it says we've lost, then I don't know what, I'd be very sad. I think we have a tremendous future. We've got an economic development strategy that sees Edmonton developing as a global competitor. Now what we have to do is we have to stop the bickering, and we have to support that strategy. That strategy says that if we're going to become a global competitor, transportation links are going to be absolutely crucial. So we have to do everything we can in Edmonton to give ourselves the best possible transportation links to where we want to go. And in the future, that's going to be more and more outside of Alberta, and that'll be the market served by the international airport.
We have to stop this Edmonton-Calgary type of debate, because that's not contributing to our economic development of the province. The reality is both cities are too small to get the kind of service that we need. We need to combine the two cities as much as we can to basically
Calgary's doing quite well, though.
No, they're not. Absolutely, they're having as much problems as we are. Their air service is good. They don't complain about it. They don't complain about it.
Better than ours.
We have convinced ourselves we have bad air service.
Mr. Grimble, are you saying that Calgary does not have better service than Edmonton?
They have more frequent flights, absolutely.
Well, that's better service.
Because they have absolutely more people
that's
who
better
fly.
service, Mr. Grimble.
They have more people who fly. They have more people who come to Calgary from offshore, and where they're going to Banff. That's the target market for Calgary.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Gilbertson. If you combine the passenger count from the Muni and International, how does that compare to Calgary?
We're well below Calgary now, and the major reason for that is that Calgary has been able to attract all sorts of connecting traffic, people going from Saskatoon to Vancouver and that sort of thing. If you look at the market itself, for example, in the first half of this year, we had more people flying to Europe out of Edmonton than we had out of Calgary, yet Calgary has 7 times the service. Tell me where the logic is behind that.
All right, line 8, you're online. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to make a comment, please. This past spring, we flew to Europe, and what was really bothersome about it was that we had to do 2 connecting flights through Montreal and Toronto. Coming home, we had to do a connecting flight through Calgary. Unfortunately, we were delayed coming back, and it took us 18 hours to come home from Europe. I had flown to Europe 10 years prior to that, before, and we had a direct flight home. Everything was great and all that stuff. My big concern about it all is that people complain that we don't have enough flights come up to Edmonton and stuff like that, just because of all the flights being cut.
All right, we get the drift of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
What about that, Mr. Grimble?
The world's changed. 10 years ago, we were in a regulated marketplace. We're no longer in a regulated marketplace. 10 years ago, the airlines were making money. Now, there's only 2 or 3 airlines in the world that are making money.
But Mr. Gilbertson, I've asked you this before. If the Muni were closed down to scheduled flights, there's no guarantee that we will have more non-stop flights or direct flights out of the international to major destinations. It may very well end up being that we're going to have to take our commuter flights to Calgary from the international.
There's no guarantee of anything these days. There's no guarantee that we'll have 2 airlines in Canada in 6 months. But what every expert that we go out and see, and last year the city went out and hired the top experts in the world in air service development, and their conclusion was that Edmonton would be better served by having 1 airport, that we would have more flights.
Yeah, but the other side had a different study. I mean,
well,
each side had their study.
But the city, okay, for example, but the city is the one group I think that can be thought of as being relatively unbiased in this. It was their airport that they were proposing to remove the airline service from.
All right, get back to the calls here. Line 4, you're online. Go ahead.
Hello.
Good morning.
I have lived in Edmonton on 109th Street going south. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
and have had the airplanes flying overhead in and out of Edmonton, and it hasn't bothered me one bit. I think one of the concerns I have is that the international airport is out of town so far that it's a problem getting there and back. I think the service is lousy.
So you're in favor of keeping them both open?
Am I?
You are?
No, I'm not. I'm in favor of using the Muni because
and closing
I think
the international?
The best.
All right, thanks.
Well, there's 2 points there. The gentleman raised the issue of convenience. I was in Calgary yesterday. It took me 20 minutes to get from downtown to the international airport. I got in my car. It took me 25 minutes to get downtown in Edmonton. So to talk about a major difference in convenience with other cities, I don't think is real. The second thing is we are talking in terms of when you look at the convenience of the Muni versus the international, generally people say it's 10 minutes closer or 15 minutes closer. Yet the lady that we just spoke to, she spoke about an extra 18 hours to get home. I think we're being pound foolish and penny wise on this thing. We're saving 10 minutes getting to the airport, and then we're finding more and more we're having to spend an extra 3 hours going through Calgary and an extra 18 hours going through Toronto.
That's just not true.
Line 5, you're online. Go ahead.
Hi, I'd like to make a comment to Mr. Grimble. He talks about how the jet traffic is lower, but he doesn't realize that it's not jet traffic that makes the most noise. This morning at 6:45, a little Cessna flew over my house and woke everybody up.
That's probably one of those traffic planes from the radio stations. Thanks for your call. And that's probably, that's not going to stop even if the Muni was shut down.
Well, that's what Ron is suggesting, is that basically that'll be a general aviation airport, so you get more Cessnas and no jets.
All right, so where do you see the common ground? Mr. Grimble is saying here that there's nothing that can be done, so you've got 10 seconds to tell us what you think the solution is.
I think we have to find a compromise that'll have a role for the Muni like it's had in the past, a commuter airport. That's what it's best at. But if you want a strong international airport, you've got to support it, and we need the traffic. Otherwise, it won't work.
And 5 seconds.
We have to define what a regional airport is, and that's the municipal airport. That's Vancouver to Winnipeg as far as we're concerned as a start. Let's work on that basis and make the international work for longer haul.
Thank you, both of you. I'll be back in a moment. Can yogic flying really solve our deficit? Don't go away.
Service and value and a whole lot more. We know what you want when you walk through our door, and we've got it.
Need a new vehicle, but not looking forward to the high-pressure sale tactics of the big city dealers? Well, it's your money. Demand more. At Welcome Ford in Fort Saskatchewan, there's no high pressure, there's no hassle. It's just a pleasant purchase experience. Call 998-3400 for the best service and the lowest prices in Alberta. We've got it, and I guarantee it.
We make deals you won't believe, satisfaction guaranteed. We've got it.
The time to buy is now. The time to pay is later, a lot later. Do not pay for 1 full year on home furnishings at The Brick with 0% interest and no down payment or monthly payments. This colonial 5-piece farmhouse dinette, just $9.98. And on appliances and electronics, do not pay until next spring. Buy a Hot Point 18 cubic foot large capacity fridge with easy to clean shelving, only $8.48. All of The Brick's guaranteed lowest prices, or we'll write you a check for the difference. Buy now, pay later, a lot later. See Friday's newspaper ad for more great values Thursday and Friday at The Brick.
Meet some of the 400,000 unemployed young people in Canada today. They are victims of the Mulroney-Campbell Conservatives' failed economic policies. Campbell's advice to them is, hang in till the year 2000. But by then, they won't be the unemployed young. They'll just be unemployed.
I have the people, I have the plan, we will make a difference.
Imagine giving your cat a gourmet meal every night. Well, with Whiskas Supreme, you can. For Cléo, a superb liver and bacon pâté. Très délicieux. And for fish lovers like Tiger, there is salmon and crab cuisine. Très bon, oui. Individual gourmet meals, each cooked délicatement in its own juices. Whiskas Supreme. And for Sacha, her favorite, turkey and giblets. After Supreme, mes chéris, no other food will do. Whiskas Supreme, for the gourmet in your cat.
In an election campaign dominated by charges and countercharges about deficit predictions, there's something delightfully goofy about the Natural Law Party. They have a vision for Canada, and what a vision it is. Quick fixes are out of fashion for the traditional parties, but they don't have yogic flyers. Yogic flyers? Magician Doug Henning is a devotee of the Maharishi and a Toronto candidate. He promises that if 7,000 Canadians bounce up and down on their bums and link their psychic energy together, crime, the deficit, the GST, and most importantly, stress, will all miraculously disappear. Compared to some of the budget plans I've seen, the Natural Law Party seems pretty sensible. Later today on 9:30 CJCA at 3 p.m., guest host Leslie Primo will be sitting in for me. The Canadian Economic Community is yet another official party fighting the election, and a visit from the Toastmaster of the Year. Monday online, the Oilers are about to slip away from us. Al Nagy tells us what we have to do to save them. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you on Monday. Goodbye.
Views and opinions expressed by the host and guests on this show are not necessarily those of CFRN Television or its advertisers.